We want to move this discussion a bit now to also talk about the issue of a living wage, Mr. Jim. A lot of this, the weighing up the increments that labor demands from time to time and weighing it up against the costs of living comes back to what you in COSATU are calling the living wage campaign. Very briefly, explain to us.
I think the first thing that I wanted to raise, I hope the listeners and everybody are taking an observation to the fact that there is, from the employer representative here, there is a very serious attempt which explain a complete unpreparedness to negotiate and to realize settlements without any form of a battle. I mean, to come into the public and say, by the way, we wanted to continue with this strike for a month, it explained the nature of intransigent and a commitment to take us to slavery wages and a race to bottom of China. Unfortunately, we're going to reject that. The truth of the matter is that workers do need living wage in this country because the price of electricity continues to rise, the price of transport continues to rise. All administered prices are the ones that constitute a serious burden to workers.
But explain the concept to us, though. A lot of people would not know what we're talking about when we say a living wage. What are we talking about? Well,
basically what we're talking about is to attack what I'm raising of the apartheid wage gap that exists, which continues to keep the black people in general, Africans in particular, in squatter camps, in inferior township. They cannot have a choice out of the fraction of wages that they have to be able to be independent, free people who can decide that I will take my children to a school of my own choice that is resourced, that I can be able to take a decision with my family that I want to buy a house in a suburb closer to work. And with the kind of mega wages that workers are having, they are completely trapped.
Right, Mr. Jim, I need to direct you. We are pressed for time, but when you say a living wage, how do you want the approach to be? How should the employers be increasing wages of workers? What should they be taking into account?
Well, they must be taking into account the reality of what I'm saying. Everything else, in terms of prices, the basket of food continues to shoot up. Administered prices of issues that are completely outside the control of workers. But this is not only the responsibility of employers. The inflation targeting, let me give you an example. We settle in year 2 and year 3 on 8% with the hope that if CPI goes to 8, workers will get 8 plus 2%, which will be better. But I can tell you, with the inflation targeting that the Department of Finance continues to maintain, of wanting to maintain the band between 3 and 6, the likelihood is that CPI will not go to 8. And therefore, workers will continue to carry the burden of those administered prices of electricity and everything else. And therefore, when it is around for negotiations, there's no way that workers will not take into account their real concrete conditions on the ground.
Mr. Papenfus, a living wage, that's what the workers are now shifting towards, demanding that instead of minimum wages, we talk about a living wage that takes into account the costs, the rising costs. Is this something that employers are committed to?
You know, it's a long debate. At the outset of the negotiations, I was the guy that said, I'm not suggesting that 6,000 Rand or 4,000 Rand is a good salary. But that's not the point. The point is, what can you pay? Now, the market determines that. The market determines that, and what we're having here now is what will a person that is earning nothing, and this market is closed for that person. Is 2,000 Rand a month a living wage? He'll tell you it is. If there are people that will give his front tooth to get 2,000 Rand a month, but this industry say no. So what is a living wage? It's for millions of people that has nothing at all, and that's our concern. This industry is an extremely selfish industry. It caters for itself. It is a thing driven by itself, which will eventually kill itself.
No, I must say the unions don't speak on behalf of the unemployed. The people in squatter camps don't have jobs. Okay.
Quickly, we actually pressed for time.
That's the point, is that the job creation is the critical thing. These things don't create jobs.
So in your view, a living wage unrealistic at this point?
When we talk what is a living wage, exactly what is a living wage for Wendy Mechanic or a top executive versus, you know, a worker everybody's got the idea of it working well. What is somebody willing to exchange his labour
Mr. Hart,
for?
thank you very much. We certainly have come to the end of our show, and that's how we come to the conclusion of our discussion. Let me thank my guests, Irvin Jim, the General Secretary of NUMSA, Chris Hart, Economist at Investment Solutions, and Gerhard Papenfus, the Chief Executive of the National Employers Association of South Africa. Thank you very much for all your messages on Facebook and all your SMS messages. We certainly saw all of them. We could not read some of them. My name is Thulasizwe Semelane. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.